Excelsior! Welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. And today we have the Fantastic Four First Steps. This has just premiered a few hours ago here on Disney Plus. Yeah, as if this is Disney Plus. No, it premiered on Disney Plus tonight. Here, it is, of course, a 2025 film because we are somehow still near 2025. It's an hour and 56 minutes long. Yes, there's an after-credit sequence or a mid-credit sequence and an end credit sequence. Just getting that out of the way right now. I won't tell you what they are. If you've seen the movie in the theaters and somehow missed that, like, I don't understand the people who go to a Marvel movie and then leave when they think the movie is over. The traditional way. There's some people who go to movies. I watched this happen. 10 minutes to go, and they leave. Like, there's a climactic battle and a decision, a life hangs in the balance. Not just this film, like any film. I used to go to the movies, and every week, well, I still go to the movies, but every week I went to the movies, somebody, like a couple, like a bunch of people would decide, oh, well, you know what, it's over. There's still 10, 15 minutes left in the film, but we're going to leave. Is the traffic that bad? Like, not where, I mean, yeah, I live in LA, but the traffic's not that bad at the theater I go to. It's not like you're going to beat everybody out of the parking lot. Come on. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, this is the latest of many Fantastic Four films that have been released over the years, all the way back to 1994, I believe. Roger Corman had the rights. Yeah, he had the rights. And he made a movie that was really never going to be seen. Not meant to be seen, anyway. And it still can be seen. You can probably find it on YouTube. I haven't checked recently, but it exists. There's also, you can probably go to a convention every once in a while, and there'll be somebody with a bunch of special DVDs that you might be able to find that there. Not that I'm recommending you do that. I'm just saying that it's a thing that exists. You can do that. Maybe. But this latest incarnation is now fully part of the MCU. The rights were once owned by 20th Century Fox during during Marvel's fire sale back in the 90s to keep themselves out of bankruptcy, at least fully out of bankruptcy, selling off Spider-Man to Sony and all of his rogues gallery and everything tied to that, like Venom and Madam Web and Craven and Morbius. And also 20th Century Fox, which took up, Daredevil, X-Men, Ghost Rider, and the Fantastic Four. So when they got 20th Century Fox, they got the rights to make a Fantastic Four movie that is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that's a good thing. That's a great thing. But they're doing it in a completely different way. It's not. I don't want to say it's a reboot of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because that is not possible at this point. Well, at least not until after Secret Wars. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of shifting, I imagine, after. There's going to be a lot of stuff that is never going to remain the same after Secret Wars. It's just not going to happen. But that's far in the future. Far in the future. They're making Avengers Doomsday right now. And the Fantastic Four will be in that as well. But what they're doing here is they're not relying so much on films that have come before. This is one of those films where the Fantastic Four, there can't be just like a callback. Oh, remember when Captain America was in World War II? Oh, yeah, Tony Stark's dad, it lives in this era. No, there's no Stark Industries. There's no Stark Corporation or anything else. There's nothing about this that can make you feel familiar. Like, oh, this is the same universe. It is. Well, it's not. It's a different reality. But it is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it works with all the same touchstones, except that it cannot do callbacks. It cannot make references. Even Eternals, which was very separated from the mainstream story, and characters who have existed well before any of the characters we know and love from the main cinematic universe, they even dug into the well and said, hey, you know what? Since everything's changed, Captain America, and Tony Stark, like, they keep making references to different characters over dinner, and then explain why they didn't help with Thanos. Well, there you go. There's a whole thing that connects that to the main cinematic universe. This does not. Different reality. It is also set in what is the early to mid 1960s with a kind of a retro futuristic look. So there's no way, even if it took place in the regular MCU, which they frustratingly call the 616, even though that's the comic universe, but I don't know. I don't know how we're going to... 616A, is that what they do? I have no idea. But there's no way for them to interact or have any kind of connection to anything unless the Eternals existed, which I don't believe they do, and also if Captain America was in World War II, which I do not believe he was, because they were in Times Square. There seemed to be a lot of... like, even in Australia, there was... the memorial ship that there's World War II definitely happened, but there wasn't a Captain America, like in our universe, except in the comics. So what we get here is a Fantastic Four where we are already knee deep in their story when we were first introduced to them through title sequences that create all the exposition that's, kind of give us their origin. It doesn't put us in the seats of them jumping into the spaceship and then flying off and getting irradiated and going, I'm going to call myself the Thing. And Reed goes, I'm going to call myself Mr. Fantastic. Like, read the room, Reed. No, it's none of that stuff is going to happen in here. They take this seriously. By the way, this is directed by Matt Shankman. You might recognize his work from WandaVision, and he's directed a lot of different things from Game of Thrones to like 40-some episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So, yeah. That's when he was picked as a director. There was always the running gag that the main forecast of the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia would have been Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben, but it didn't work out that way. So, and Frank could have been Mole Man. Danny DeVito could have been Mole Man. It worked out. It would have worked out. There's an alternate take in an alternate universe that has all of them cast in those roles. Just saying, there should be. So what we get here is, I'm not going to spoil a whole lot for you because this is still a fairly new film, and a lot of people really were waiting for this to come out on Disney Plus in order to watch it. So I'm going to be careful to a certain degree, but there are certain things that you honestly should be watching the film before you watch this. If 10 of you actually do watch this, I have no idea. What we get here, if you don't already know who the Fantastic Four is, even though after doing 4 previous films, 1994, 2004, 5, the Corman, we had the ones done in the aughts with Jessica Alba, Michael Chiklis, and Chris Evans, and Chris Evans, who became Captain America eventually. So then we also had sort of the really dark Josh Trank version that was just body horror all around. It just, they went a very different direction. Here, this very much holds to the origin of the Fantastic Four, as if they had made the movie in that era. The era in which Jack Kirby drew it. The era that, even though 50 issues in, 48, 49, 50 issues in, was the first introduction of Galactus and the Silver Surfer. They decided to go with a really iconic character as the villain, even though they did that in Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. And Galactus was a swarm of bots. I even forget. I know I watched it not too long ago, but yeah. But yeah, they basically just checked off a bunch of things that were in the Fantastic Four and made those films. Nothing against the actors. I love the cast, but it just... honestly, the aughts were still a time when, until the Marvel Cinematic Universe kicked into gear and they didn't have anything to lose, for the most part, when they brought us Iron Man, because there was not expectations. Sure, people knew who Iron Man was if they read the comics or they watched the cartoons, but most people weren't gonna go, oh my gosh, that is not my Iron Man. when they saw Robert Downey Jr. step into the shoes and tell a story that was different than most other superhero movies at that time. Superman has always been iconic, and he's been righteous and true, and except when he's corrupted by red kryptonite, but he's always been incorruptible. Batman has always been a force of justice in the darkest parts of our cities, and that's DC. With Spider-Man, we have the X-Men. X-Men fighting against injustice and bigotry and hate for who they were, for protecting the people that fear and hate them. Spider-Man is just your average Joe. He's you and us behind the mask, you and me behind the mask, and trying to do what's right, power and responsibility. With the Fantastic Four, they're the first family in many different ways, not just the first characters introduced in what would become the Marvel Comics superhero universe. 1961, the very first, the first issue of Fantastic Four is very much considered to be the beginning of the true core Marvel universe. Even though Marvel Comics existed many decades before, which introduced the Submariner and a different Human Torch, but that's still, and it said Marvel Comics on the cover, but it wasn't necessarily the same thing. They were later rolled into the main Marvel universe. Two Human Torches at the same time. Yeah. We were introduced to in the Invisible Girl, because one of the things that Marvel wants you to forget a little bit is the fact that she was a teenage girl with a crush on a professor named Reed Richards. She was Sue Storm, and that was just a little inappropriate. We kind of forgot about that. Sue is fully a woman in this, played by Vanessa Kirby, to Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, and Vanessa Kirby is fully a woman, as we discover in very early in this. They also didn't just take on the Galactus story in their own way. They also brought us a married couple from the very start, and in Reed and Sue, they're married, not anybody else. Johnny's her brother, and Ben is best friend, college buddy of Reed. So Reed and Sue are married, and when we first get to see them, we discover that she's pregnant. That's, for the most part, as spoilery as I'm going to try to get. Some things you can't really avoid, but she's pregnant. It's the family is what this revolves around, but it's also a tale of apocalypse, not the Marvel villain, but not the X-Men villain, but this is an apocalyptic tale. This is about standing up for one's community. This is also a story about celebrity and just, yeah. But the core, it's family. It's family, and the family of the world working together to defeat something that is absolutely going to destroy them, if not for the Fantastic Four. Any other planet, this reality right here that I'm standing in would be wiped away because we do not have the Fantastic Four. God knows, I wish we did sometimes. But we have a situation here that there's a God-level, infinite power being in the form of Galactus who hungers, and he's going to destroy everything in his path in order to feed that insatiable hunger. Led by his herald, Silver Surfer, as nicknamed by the humans who recognize her, but her name is Shalabal. Okay, this is another spoiler, but this stuff is all in the trailers, so don't worry about it. I warned you. You should watch the movie first before you listen to me. We get Shalabal. We get Shalabal in the Marvel comics. Norrin Rad is a Silver Surfer, and he's the one who takes on the role of the Herald and takes Galactus to various planets for him to eat. Eventually, he tries to bring Galactus to places that will not take sentient life, but that isn't always possible. And in this case, same thing goes with Shalabal. she was, by the way, Norrin Radd's love in the comics. So there's a nice little turn. There's no Norrin Radd in this, but again, I'm gonna have to slow down on the spoilers here. But what we get here is a movie that, at times, feels like it should have been a TV series. Matt Shankman, as he did with WandaVision, dabbled in different decades, different versions of popular television. He understands how to depict different eras of television, like an expert. He's absolutely an expert. But in very much of this is a family drama. It has the pace and the tone of something that you would just watch as a Disney Plus series. And so this is where watching a Disney Plus might be a little bit more palatable than, say, expecting boom, boom, boom constantly on the big screen. I will admit, the very first time I saw this was during Comic-Con, and I had gone up to the AMC theaters up in Mission Valley, near there in San Diego. And we got a late showing, and it was... Some people around me confessed that they had fallen asleep at different points, and that's not great for any film if that happens. But there were times where things were just sort of really quiet. It contrasts greatly with the parts that are not so quiet. I still, more than anything, I love the sequence where they face off with Galactus for the first time and try to escape him and the Silver Surfer. So that is still, it's thrilling. It's kind of a ticking clock. It's a chase. It is all these things that are really, it's paced really well, and it's exciting. And there's a lot at stake. So it's for me, the tonal shifts, the quiet to the crazy, work. It works for me. It's not a problem. But I can understand where some people are just like, oh, they're talking about things. Understand that as things move on, Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four are going to kind of be the heart of the Avengers film, as far as we know. He's going to be kind of the focus of what Tony Stark was, what Robert Downey Jr. was, because he's Pedro Pascal, and there is the belief that if you put Pedro Pascal in everything you make will be a just crazy blockbuster and critically acclaimed. That is not always the case now, we realize. I don't understand. Okay, you know what? Everybody to their own opinion. That's fine. Everybody can have their own opinion. I really like this film. I really do. And watching it now again on Disney Plus, it feels right. I've seen it now four times total. Twice in the theaters, because I had to see it again after I got back from Comic-Con with friends who were waiting to watch it with me. I like the way they depict the characters. The actors, I thought maybe Vanessa Kirby might have been a little bit too cold to play Sue, because with the James Bond stuff and some other things she's been in, she seems a little bit more stoic, and she's gorgeous and just, I don't know, more regal. I don't know, but her American accent is spot on. I'm pretty sure she's British. She looks British, like blonde British. But yeah, it's. By the way, I want to make sure I mention the other guys. Eben Moss-Bachrach, I believe, is Ben Grimm. Sorry, Eben, if I misspelled your hyphenated last name, because I just haven't heard it spoken aloud in a while. I just see the titles. And Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm. Those are our main four. We get Herbie. We get Ralph Ineson as Galactus, and Shallabal is played by Julia Garner. And hey, you know what? Natasha Lyonne shows up in this. It's never a bad thing. And there's a number of familiar faces you'll see throughout this. If you've watched Ted Lasso, if you watch a number of different comedies, let's say a certain underground dwelling villain makes his first appearance. And yes, there are Easter eggs throughout. There are not, again, references to Marvel characters we already know. I thought for sure they'd squeeze in a Stark Industries or something. Nope. Even if there was never a Tony Stark, they could have still thrown that in. Nope, that's not the way it works. This is a world without those heroes, and heroes that do exist well before the era that they came to rise in 2007 for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. What this has from Matt Shankman and his design crew, production, just the look of the characters, the look of the world, all these little details are just, to me, candy. I could watch this over and over, even silent, just to catch all the little details. To me, it's beautifully done, especially that retro-futuristic, just the little tiny details. Even Sue's pregnancy test, which I thought said Stark on it for a second, it said Stork. It was a special thing that probably Reed invented. Or at least because of, I understand how science technically works, is when science doesn't just improve upon itself in a vacuum by one person spurs on other people's work, and things get better and rise to the top. And so this 1960s New York City, the world is so much more advanced in many ways, but still has CRT televisions and some more physical mechanics to how things are activated as compared to our tap, tap, tap screen kind of situation. There's still records, gold records, but that are carved out in the moment. Yeah, that was something that we kind of technically had in the 60s, I think. But in this, it's just part of the science. It's part of the things. And what we have here is Reed Richards, who plays a number of different roles. There's not a number of different roles, but there's a depth of character to Reed Richards that is rarely touched upon, even sometimes in the comics. He's a man who knows everything. He is the smartest man in the world. He can solve any problem, and that is kind of the greatness of when Fantastic Four is written properly, not just as a man who's all up in his own head and ignores his wife like he did in the other Fantastic Four movies, where he's just totally self-obsessed with solving a problem, and then, hey, you know what, we're going to do a stretchy gimmick for comedy. Then that's funny. Hey, guess what? Sue's turned invisible, but she's naked because she has to be, because she can't turn her clothes naked. So guess what? You guys are get to see Jessica Alba naked, but she's invisible, so you can't see her. Funny. And it didn't take the characters seriously. As much as I love the actors, and they did their best with what they had, and sure, they got the Stan Lee cameos, but we don't get a Stan Lee cameo in this. Oh, although we do. Sort of. I will give you this, because this is a moment that I noticed in the theater the first time I watched it. And most people who are fans will get this. If you're not a big fan, this would have passed right over you. There's a moment when the Silver Surfer first appears on Earth in the middle of Times Square, and the Fantastic Four goes out to meet her. And as everybody starts to gather into Times Square, you see two guys come into the window, and I think the one guy goes, "Would you take a look at that?" or "Would you get a load of this?" or something like along those lines. That is supposed to be, I could be completely wrong, that is supposed to be Jack Kirby, the co-creator of the Fantastic Four. And the man who walks up beside him and looks out the window with him is supposed to be Stan Lee. Yes, I was gonna. I would have been wrong if we would have gone all the way back to Joe Simon with Captain America and everything else. But no, this is definitely meant to be Stan and Jack. Just their physicality, the way they look, where they would have looked in the 1960s. It's definitely patterned after them, and it proves it when the camera turns with their back to you, and you see them looking out the window. There's comic pages stuck up all around the window frame. These guys are comic book creators. And they are, some of the pages, if you freeze frame it, some of the pages are comic monsters that were popular at the time. That Stan and Jack, mostly Jack, created. And this is very much, by the way, a humongous tribute to the work of Jack Kirby. I won't spoil that because that's kind of neat. That is kind of neat. How they give tribute to him. All the films have always been about Stan, 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 and that's great. That's fine. But Jack contributed so much to the look and the feel of Marvel Comics more than anybody else. Yeah, there's Steve Ditko, Spider-Man, and John Romita Sr., and everybody who came after them. There's no shortage of people that you can praise for their work. But Jack, anybody will admit, is at the core of this. And he, just even looking at Galactus, there's so much of him in that. But at the same time, there are also tributes to other artists who have depicted Galactus and the Silver Surfer over the years. Mobius very much is a French artist. I forget his real name. Mobius is kind of his pen name, his artistic name. If you want to ever look for a really good, very different looking comic book that stars Galactus and the Silver Surfer, primarily the Silver Surfer, look for that. Just go to your comic shop and ask for it. Do you have the Silver Surfer Mobius graphic novel? No, not the Mobius from Loki. That's a different Mobius. But also there's elements of, there's Jack, there's Mobius, and there's a third one that I'm totally blanking on. That just, it's not John Byrne, which he did write and draw one of the best runs of Fantastic Four ever, right after he finished doing X-Men with Chris Claremont. But I know I'm just talking super nerd at this point. I am sorry for those of you who do not know the comics. It's great that this movie finally exists. And that, I think, while it may not have gotten the reception that it deserved, is it the greatest Marvel film ever? Absolutely not. It is absolutely not, but it is great. It has Michael Giacchino doing the music, the guy who did The Incredibles, which had previously been the best Fantastic Four movie in existence, which wasn't a Fantastic Four movie, but was styled fully on Fantastic Four as a family. And Michael Giacchino could have copied and pasted his entire soundtrack from the Incredibles films, and he didn't. He did something that still fit within that 1960s aesthetic that The Incredibles also existed in, but it did very much a different thing. Just from the chorus that performs at different points, that just declaring Fantastic Four, that kind of thing. I'm sorry I did that. All those things, he made it that his own. So we now have, just like Avengers has a clear theme, Fantastic Four has a clear theme, and so you will hear that intonation again at some point in the future. I could go on, as you know, for a long time. Ah, dang it! Just like last time. Just like yesterday. Spider-Man. Hey, look. It's Star Trek. That's not Disney. Part of me is like, hey, Disney, before Paramount and all the other people start really, really messing with Star Trek, awful people messing with Star Trek, could we please just get Star Trek away from Paramount, CBS, if they're not going to treat it right? But that's a side thing. I really shouldn't make these things a half an hour long. I'm sorry. Or I need to change the settings. They seem to do that on their own. I say, even if you've seen this in the theaters before, and maybe you fell asleep, or maybe it didn't really hit you the same way, because again, the premise of so much of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is how it connects, and that is kind of the great thing. One, it's never been possible before. It never should have been possible. Yeah, in the past we've had Superman and Batman. Oh no, they never really interacted with each other in the DC universe. There's no Superman appearances in Tim Burton's Batman movies. Two of them, but Schumacher? Yeah. No. They kept them all separate. And Wonder Woman didn't even get a movie until the 2000s. They only ever crossed over if there was a parody on Saturday Night Live or some other random Thanksgiving Day parade. It's just the way it was. But the idea that Marvel could create a universe that would take so many different types of characters and make it work when they all came together in the Avengers is pretty astounding. Whether you hate or love that film, I still love it, but it should not have worked. A man from the World War II with a guy in a mech armor and a hammer swinging god should not have been able to be on the screen together and make sense. For a long time, we couldn't imagine ever making a proper Thor movie, and we couldn't seem to make a proper Hulk movie to save our lives. And then Captain America just seemed a little too corny. Let's put him next to the guy with long hair and a hammer. And the alcoholic munitions guy who eventually turns the other cheek but is still kind of a jerk. He came around. Add the Fantastic Four to it. With heart, with family. And again, these are situations. Fantastic Four can make probably a few people kind of uncomfortable when they're dealing with a movie about superheroes. These are people who tell each other they love each other. These are people, well, rather than bickering, yeah, the Fantastic Four definitely always bicker. Ben and Johnny, they fight like brothers. But they love each other, and they've always got their backs. And Reed and Sue, they are the parents, the mommy and daddy of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Dad is way too smart, and Mom is way too passionate. Actually, there's no such thing as both. Too much of both. And they'll do anything to do what's right. And they may screw up. They might get corrupted at times. But they will do what's right in the end. They will figure it out. Even if the answer isn't apparent from the start. And that is what is the lifeblood of this film. Doing things that are literally impossible, even by regular superhero standards. This is the kind of thing that the Avengers would not have figured out. They would have just kept hitting Galactus in the face until they were dead. Not Galactus. Yeah. Okay, maybe Doctor Strange with Tony would have figured something out, but still, it's a whole different thing. So, again, if you have watched it or you have yet to watch it, definitely take the time, sit down, go, just pay attention to it. That's what's really important to this. It's not the kind of thing where you can be watching in the background. I thought I could do that today, and I could not. No, I ended up not getting much done for those 2 hours. By the way, I discovered on the Blu-ray, I don't know, I forgot to check at the end of this. On the Blu-ray, there is a QR code that lets you get free Fantastic Four comics from like the Galactus saga, the Silver Surfer saga, and a collection of other comics from other eras of the Fantastic Four that kind of give you a deeper background and understanding of the characters and where the inspiration for so much of what we've got here in this movie came from. This, including, of course, the first issue. So, yeah. When you get a chance, check it out. It's worth the time. And I think this will really start to pay off in the years to come as they join all of the other heroes together in this big battle against Doom. And by the way, thank you for not, Matt and Kevin Feige, thank you for not making Doom the villain again. As my thought was going to be like, if he just shows up like as a college buddy and like, hey, Reed, how's it going? Blah, my face. If that would have been a thing, just like a B plot that just sort of got forgotten and until later, it just would have been just dumb. Doom is the most dangerous character in the Marvel Universe, period. More than Galactus. More than Thanos. More than Galactus and Thanos combined. Doom is dangerous. And he's coming. And he's Robert Downey Jr., which makes it even more difficult. So that's a whole other episode, but please check it out. But yeah, Doom. They almost have to finish. They have to stop making the Marvel Cinematic Universe films after Secret Wars, I feel like, or just literally start from scratch after that point, because Doom does not go down easily, and when he does, it's usually his own fault. But he won't even admit that. So that's a whole other. Again, I should not even continue. It's already 35 minutes into this. I'm sorry. I'm sure all of you are sticking with me to the very end on this one. But don't, pretend it's a podcast and just close your eyes. Like I'm not even here. I'm just my voice. Just putting you to sleep. Good night. Tomorrow we're going to be watching, there's something that I just saw when loading this up. I didn't realize it, but there is a bunch of Fortnite stuff. There's a paid promotional thing from Epic Games. And so I don't know how long this is going to last, or if it's a series, or if it's a one-shot, it's a short. I'm not really sure, but when I get into it tomorrow, I'm going to dig into it further, so I figured I got to watch this right away before if it can't be randomly picked sometime next year. So again, it's another thing that was picked. So it's Fortnite x The Simpsons Apocalypse Doe. Yeah. So we're going to figure out what that's all about. It's going to try to sell you on playing a video game with Simpsons theming. So we'll see about that. Fortnite and The Simpsons Apocalypse Doe is what we're watching next in the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that. Excelsior.